What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream. I know a lot of you have been waiting. I see the chat. Has it started yet? Nope, you're not late. We just are a little bit. We were having some great conversations in the back. And Marcie, thank you so much for joining. Marcie Jastrow from the Shib Metaverse team. And Marcie, how are you? How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Zach? Thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Doing fantastic. I know the people are going to be super, super excited to hear from you and hear about the metaverse. So quick little note, guys, before we jump in. So Marcie's just going to focus on the metaverse. We're not going to talk about burning tokens, even though those are important things. I'll have videos on those. We'll cover that. Supply and everything related to the token. We'll leave that to the side. We're just going to focus on the metaverse itself. So Marcie, I want to start just with like how you got into crypto, because I've obviously looked at your background a little bit. You've worked in VR and AR. How did you find yourself here working in this capacity?
Well, it's actually a very funny story. It happened in 2016 when I started looking at blockchain. And I'm going to say a very dirty word. I happened to be at the World Economic Forum, and I was sharing a limo to the actual convention, and I ended up with all these crypto bros in this car, and people started explaining blockchain and crypto to me, and so I got curious, just like anybody else would, and wanted to learn more. Obviously, I was more focused on VR, AR, and MR at the time, virtual reality, augmented reality, extended reality, which is encompassing of all three. And then went off and did a startup during the pandemic towards the end of 2000. Where are we? We're in 2022. Okay. So
2020 was a blur and everything.
So let me give you background on how this all happened. So essentially, Sherry Kuno, who is my counterpart on the technology side. So I concentrate on studio art, projects, community, and Sherry concentrates on all the technology of the building of it. And so Sherry and my husband had worked together very early on in the 2000s, where they built the first World Wide Web casino on the internet. And so Sherry has always been sort of in and out of our lives. When I was doing VR, she was like, what are we going to do now? We were always a little ahead of our time in the projects that we would create. She called me up and she said, what are you doing right now? And I said, I'm really trying to get into crypto, trying to get into NFTs, trying to get into building metaverses. And she said, well, I have a brand that I think you might be interested in getting involved with. And quite honestly, I had never even heard of Shib. Although when I said it to my 16-year-old son at the time, he was jumping up and down because he is actually a part of the Shib army. And I was unaware of the fact that we were actual Shib holders for a pretty long time. Yeah. So ultimately, we had the conversation, and I was getting ready to do a keynote at AWE about building metaverses and what would make a metaverse thrive. And that was a coin, 3 C's, a coin, community, and high-end content. So you don't break immersion. And when I looked into the Shiba Inu ecosystem, I was like, wait a second, this is crazy. It's got it all. Like, I could really do something here. And so that's why we decided to join and build the MV.
That's amazing. So where are we at right now in terms of like development? Like, what's your day-to-day look like right now? I mean, I know it's still infancy stages, a lot of work to be done. What does it look like right now? I mean, what are you?
So behind me is Rocket Pond. We are in the middle of developing Rocket Pond right now. WAGME is almost finished as far as art and sound, and we're getting ready to move on to the mini games. The Rocket Pond we've just moved into. And so what we do is we work with our studios and we look at the hub. So the process is super simple. The growth team, so if you guys know a lot of the names, Tropheus and Ubi and Based and Milk, they're so connected to the community that they speak to them all the time. and they come up with what the name is of the hub, what the look and feel is of the hub, what it should emulate, different kind of ideas that they should have in the hub. And so then from there, we create a board. So think of it as a mood board. And then we go to our concept artists and we say, okay, now remember, when you're building a metaverse, it doesn't have to emulate in real life. And this is the biggest thing that I have to keep knocking into the team's head, is that if you want a waterfall, it doesn't have to be a traditional waterfall. If you want to have a boatyard, it doesn't have to be a regular boatyard. Everything can be whatever you want to be in the metaverse. So it's really about creating the hubs in a way in which it looks and feels potentially differently than what it would in real life. Mm-hmm. At the other part of it, Sherry is working on all the technology. So everything from, structure builder, avatar builder, mini games, underlying technology, being able to handle the scale and the growth, because we have so many people who are in the Shib Army. We need to be able to have as many people as we can. So right now we are pretty much done with WAGMI in the sense of the art and the sound. Moving into Rocket Pond next, and then we will move into Tech Trench, and then we will move into Rio Plaza. So those are the 4 hubs that we will probably release throughout 2023. When, I do not know. We have goals. And I come from the entertainment industry, and part of my job in the entertainment industry was to deliver films day and date. And what that means is, when you're delivering a film day and date, that means that digital film piece has to drop at the same time globally. And so for me, when I say we need to back into the date, and people say, oh, well, that won't work, I can't imagine ever saying that to a studio. So I really ride them hard on, we just need to get it done. If we decide we're on a date, we need to deliver. And it may not be perfect, but that's all about the feedback too.
Right.
Key to the metaverse is feedback. And knowing it's not going to be perfect when we all walk in, right? But it's going to be getting the feedback so that we don't release the other 8 hubs and we haven't even listened to the community. So we deal with our studios. Did that answer your question? We deal with the studios. We look at concept art. We look at gameplay. We look at experiences. I talk to partners. We were really focused on brand partners for a while. Going out to big brands and saying, hey, come get eyeballs in the MV. Now I'm more really focused on the community itself. What are the community projects inside that they want to do? How can we release the land prior to all hubs being done? And then how can we help the community projects of people who want to do something? How can we help them build out those community projects in a way that it becomes very meaningful and they can have, income from being in the metaverse?
Now, we were mentioning it off air, and I see all the great questions. So if you all want to just hold those toward the back half of this hour that we're going to have with Marcie, that would be great. And we'll get to all of those, as many as we can, I promise. So we were mentioning kind of off air, Marcie, that this is different than Decentraland and Sandbox. How is it different? Because I think people immediately gravitate toward that in the crypto space, and that's kind of their idea of the metaverse. How is this different than what Shib's building?
So as I said, community, right? This community is vibrant. It's probably one of the most fun, exciting communities I've ever worked with. And because we actually care about the community, where Decentraland and Sandbox was built in a vacuum, right? They decided what they were going to build. They really didn't have a community feedback. They really didn't have any of that. Since we work daily with the community to see what the community wants, we're really building for the community. Whereas other metaverses are building what they think a metaverse should be. Right. And so it's a different concept, right? I'm not building in a vacuum. If I build in a vacuum, then I'm not giving the community what they want to see. So I think that's the antithesis of what these other metaverses are. Other metaverses want to make money for their companies. We want to make money for the community.
Love that. Yeah. So let's talk about the third floor a little bit. And because when that
Sure.
news broke, that was very eye opening to me. I covered that quite a bit on the channel here, talking
Oh,
about
you did? Oh, that's so funny.
yeah, just the background. I mean, the pedigree of some of those people and
Yeah.
the projects they've worked on. So are you in direct contact with them or
Oh,
what
yeah.
does that look like?
So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some really great announcements coming out over the next couple of months about the third floor. But I've known Chris Edwards, who's the CEO of the third floor, for probably, I don't know, 10 years now. When VR was first starting to take off, there was a little experience called the Martian experience based on the movie The Martian.
Oh, nice.
And I was working at Technicolor at the time, and Chris was obviously at the third floor. And we worked together on that experience with a couple of my friends, Ted Shilowitz and Ted Galliano. And so I knew Chris, and I knew that he was an entrepreneur. It's not like I can say to a lot of studios out there, hey, have you ever heard of Shiba Inu? Come in, build a metaverse with me. Because, let's face it, people don't know what it is and what it looks like. It's not a normal brand. It's not like Coca-Cola where people are going to be like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So it was a little bit of picking up the phone and saying, I need your help. Can you do me a favor? I think I know what I'm doing. I think I have the right process and plan to go forward, but I really need to know, because not everybody works in Unreal. If you're a game studio, you work in Unreal, but not oftentimes do game studios, good gaming studios, sell their services for a business, right? They're not enterprise. They're doing it for themselves. So what I wanted was the imagination of the third floor. I wanted, and the other thing, and I'm sorry to backtrack, the other thing you have to understand about Hollywood, there's a lot of very creative companies with creative people in these companies, but they don't ever really get to use their creativity because they have a director directing them.
Right.
And what I thought was super cool about this is there's no director. Like, I'm not saying I'm whatever I say goes. It's a team effort. And so what I thought would be super cool is all of these people who have worked on Marvel shows and, any major feature film, name it, they don't really get a say of what would be cool. Wouldn't it be cool if? And so I felt like by bringing in these teams who have worked with some of the best directors on some of the best talent, building these worlds out might be more interesting than a normal studio or some random studio out there. But one studio does not build a metaverse. And that's where I think a lot of people don't understand that. At one point, I was getting a lot of shit for rock salt and, oh my God, why is she bringing on another studio? It takes a village.
Yeah.
And as fast as I want to move, I need a lot of teams to build this out properly.
So you referenced kind of some of the way it's kind of built, just come up with great ideas. Let's work together. What have been some of those great ideas from both people you're working with alongside and also maybe like community members? Like, what are some of those things that have really stood out to you thus far?
Oh, gosh.
If you can narrow it down to maybe a few.
It's so hard, right? I mean, every day there's an idea. And by the way, at one point I may think it's a great idea, and then the next day I'm like, how the hell am I going to make that work? Right. And unfortunately, until I get one hub up, I can't really do the feedback that I need. I can't do the beta version, but obviously mini games, right? So in WAGME, let's talk about WAGME. WAGME is the most complete. So in WAGME, it's wellness and holistic medicine. It's meditation, it's yoga. So I would say if there are any yoga teachers out there, any Ayurvedic coaches out there, any meditation coaches out there that want to be a part of growing that hub, I really think you should reach out to me. Because at first we were going to go high end and get, one of the biggest brands to come in and kind of own that hub. And again, because we've really turned to the community, I want the community to come in and say, hey, I'm a yoga teacher. I would like to do yoga every, Tuesday at 9:00 and in Wagme Temple. And, I want to be able to sell those classes online, because now you've got not just the captive audience of the people that are within your demo, you've got the world. It's global, right? And so that's where I think our leg up is much better than others, because we have people who are completely diverse all over the world coming up with different ideas. And that's how we're going to win. Mm-hmm. I believe, honestly, and that's also why we're bringing in studios from all over the world. We're not just focused on the Hollywood studio. We've got people in Vancouver working on it. We have people in India working on it. So it's really about the diversity. And so WAGME is that. So if you, for example, are coaching, and, I'm just coming off of what certain people that I know who have products that want to sell it in the metaverse. So I know of a woman who has an entire Ayurvedic kit, and it's the morning jam, the nose drops, the mouth swish. She can come in and she can sell those products to whoever she wants in the MV. Does that make sense? That's
brilliant. I was going to ask you about that too. Like, what does that process look like in terms of ways for e-commerce, and what does that look like in terms of the business model? I guess that's
so we're working on that right now.
Yeah.
So because everything may look a little different, because we want everybody to win, right? If you're a brand that's got a bunch of money, your deal is going to look different than, let's just say, Mrs. J. I love her to death. Yeah. So, I'm trying to convince Mrs. J to do a bakery in the metaverse. But it all has to tap back to in real life. Right? Because you want a double whammy. Let's say I always use Mrs. J as an example. So Mrs. J does a cooking show in Twitter Spaces, right? And it's less about the cooking, but more about the connection, right? So Friday nights and Sunday nights, which is awesome, she does these Twitter Spaces. Right now in those Twitter Spaces, it's a passive 2D. Just like right now, we're doing a passive 2D.
Yep.
In the metaverse, she's going to have an avatar. She's probably going to have NFTs of her cookies that map back to in real life cookies that then she can sell in real life. And the NFTs could be sold in the MV. But the other problem with NFTs, let's just go there for a minute, because I don't think I've seen one good NFT drop, not in Shib, but just because I do a lot of evaluation on it.
What was it?
It was actually Gary V's NFT drop. Yeah, where he decided to do an NFT drop, build an in real life social club.
Sure.
And the utility behind that NFT drop was, I am now a member of that in real life social club.
Gotcha.
And to me, why does that work? Because you can ratchet up those utilities over and over again. Everything exactly the value of it. And what I think has happened is everybody was like, oh, NFTs, let's go. And then they created these NFT drops and there was no utility behind it.
Right. And I think the days of the JPEGs, I think, are over. But I think you're right.
3D.
I think you're right. I mean, creating this kind of like loyalty rewards points.
Exactly.
In a way. That's kind of what it feels like.
Exactly.
Right? Frequent flyer miles, kind of like that kind of model. Right?
Exactly.
If you engage more in this community, like you can get more out of it. And so I agree with you there.
But here's the thing, why people like you are important is because, yes, we have an extremely vibrant community. We got to grow this community to 100 million people. And again, I'm not basing it just on the token. I'm basing it on many different many different projects within the ecosystem. And the idea is if we can get that many people, it changes the trajectory of, how do you know, maybe someone in, from 6 million to 100 million want to buy the Ayurvedic, want to buy the cookies, want to do a corporate gifting with Mrs. J. And all of a sudden, Mrs. J has a vibrant business that she is able to take advantage of.
So you mentioned the focus right now is more on finding who in the community wants to be a part of this, and then kind of from there, maybe looking out at outside partners, or I'm sure there's probably a little bit of both going on, but the focal point is more about who's in this community, because it's a big community already. I mean, we're talking about 1.2 million holders, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that was super funny, which, we talked about earlier, I'm willing to meet with people all day long.
Yeah.
I was in Miami last week when I was doing that panel for the Metaverse.
I want to ask you about that too.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to meet, Jerry Cook, who's part of the Shib Army and who's been a part of it for a long time. And he's got so many great ideas of what he is going to do in the community. But when look, in real life is amazing, and I'm not going to be able to meet everybody in real life, but I do want to meet as many people as I can, providing they are real, right? And they are good people. That is my goal. There's, in any business, there's good people, there's bad people. I really only want to concentrate on the good ones. But it was super awesome to meet him in real life and to walk him through, because the concept of a metaverse is a very vast concept.
Yeah.
And each metaverse is going to look a little different. And each metaverse is going to provide different things to different people. Our metaverse is super community driven.
JD, sorry, I just saw a comment come through. JD's building some awesome things for the Shiba Inu community. He's got something called Paw Zone. Have you seen this?
No. Well, I've heard about Paw Zone, but I don't know exactly what it is.
It's an NFT marketplace that'll be built on Shibarium, and he's been in touch with some of the dev teams. He said he'd love to connect.
Let's talk.
I've had JD on the channel.
I'm gonna put my email in the chat.
Yeah.
Everybody can reach out, because I don't usually respond to DMs, but I don't know how to do that. So actually, will you put it in, because I don't know how to do it?
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
Marcie@shib.io. And we will have the wiki up soon, the intake form up soon. And then, the next 3 months is really going to be about me trying to connect to as many people as possible, so that, because here's the thing, if we do get the opportunity to have a brand come in to do something alongside the Shib Army, I don't want to bump into someone who may already have that idea. And that's really, like, the last thing I want to do is upset anybody in the community.
Right. And there might be opportunities for maybe one of those big brands to actually collaborate with some community members. And now you bring in a partner and there's community involvement. And so, yeah, that sounds awesome.
That's right.
Going back to the conference. So you met some community members. How was the conversations about Shib? What were people asking you? Just your experiences there. I mean, how was it?
So for as large as our community is, there's a lot of people who still don't know what Shiba Inu is. And so that's why I'm kind of going on the road to do these conferences. Because when I was in VR, that was the biggest thing. Go be a thought leader, talk about VR, what works, what doesn't work, how do you build a piece of content, what keeps people immersed, what's good, what's not, right? Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what I'm going to start doing for the Metaverse, is speaking on as many panels as I can, talking about our community, getting people involved. It's been great because, I'm super lucky that the people that I've known for the last 7 years, who are thought leaders in both the XR space and now the crypto space, they are kind of rallying around the Shiba Inu and the Shib Army, and they all love it. Like, I don't know if you saw Christina Heller, who runs MetaStage, which is the volumetric capture stage. She called me up. She goes, "Okay, I'm buying Shib right now." I'm like, okay, buy all you want, but don't expect me to like make your coin go up. That's just not my deal.
Right. No, I mean, it's an interesting time. We were talking off air just about the state of the markets, and it's everything. I mean, you made the great point. It's not just crypto right now, but these times provide more opportunity for, business development, for investment opportunities, building. I mean, so many people right now, I think, are just shutting down, and I think that's an easy kind of response. Like right now, is just a complete shutdown. Let's get away from it all, and maybe a little bit of that's okay, but you've got to come back to the table, and it's time to build. It's time to work.
And I think that, so it's funny because I used to be a corporate maven, which was, really gave me a good backbone of understanding and learning. And the one thing that gets cut out of a budget during times like this is sales and marketing. And it is the wrong approach. Right now, if you have, and we're doing it too in our own family, is, invest in yourself. Don't go and stick money on the stock market. Invest in yourself and what businesses you want that will give you the ability to grow, so that when we do come out of this, you've made a name for yourself. And the metaverse is going to be a perfect place to do that, because you already have a very focused community who wants other community members to do well.
100%. Many people in the chat are asking who Shytoshi is. I don't think Marcie's going to give that answer today.
My point is why do you want to know? Like, honestly, why do you want to know? I don't know who he is. I have no idea who he is. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But as a person, I will tell you that, because it's strange, right? I don't know them. I don't know any of them. I've never met them in real life. I've only spoken to them on Telegram. But as human beings, and again, I only know what I know. As human beings, I think they're the right people. I really do. I think their values and their goals are going in the right direction.
And I think it's represented with how this community was built too, and how many people are still here. Before this bear market hit, Marcie, everybody in crypto, well, not everybody, but a lot of the naysayers, right? They were like, Shiba Inu it's done. It's over. That was fun. That was cute. That was cool. Okay. Back to business. And Shiba's not going anywhere.
No.
And that's what just fascinates the hell out of me of this community. It's so unique. It's so different. People are so engaged. They're so
here's the other thing. I want us to all, this is not just you and me talking. This is me talking to the entire Shib army.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the fact that we have, let's just call it 6 million eyeballs, right? What does a brand look for when you are going to make a bet to go advertise somewhere? If we do that to each other and help each other with our products, with our 6 million eyeballs, everybody can be successful. And so, again, that is the community, and it is a marketing machine. So if someone tags Shib Army on Twitter, retweet it. It doesn't, you're just helping the movement, right?
Yeah.
And you may be tapping into 20 other people who don't even know what our movement is. We say it's not a meme, it's a movement.
100%. And that's what started this movement in the first place. I mean, the social media presence. I remember way back in the day in 2021 when I was going to Google Trends, and because I was like a nerd for Google Trends data and stuff, with like which crypto project was up next. And once I saw like a little bit of a rise in Shib's Google Trends data, and then it just went insane. I mean, you start looking at those heat maps of people from all over the globe, and there are people from all over the globe just on this small live stream with 250 people. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, the amount of
when
when
I came on to and agreed to do this, the funniest thing was Shytoshi said, I say he says, but it's on Telegram, so we type, which is in itself difficult to work with. But he would say, you need to be careful, like shut off your DMs, do this. Like there's this whole thing. I want you to be really careful because the minute I announce you, or the minute Milk announces you, your Twitter is going to grow by leaps and bounds. And I was like, yeah, right. Okay. Bullshit. And next thing you know, I went from 1,000 to almost 7,000 right now. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's insane. And actually, we'll pull it up right now. I've got it over here. There we go, right there. So yeah, make sure you definitely go and follow Marcie over here on Twitter. But Marcie, I got to ask you this, and there's some people asking about this on the chat a little bit. I don't know how much you could speak to this, but what is the connection or relationship with Shib the Metaverse and Shibarium? Because I know those are the two things
underlying technology. The underlying technology.
Okay.
And I cannot tell you when it's coming out because I don't know.
I knew not to ask that because I know that's
I have no idea. I don't even know the dev team behind it. I don't know what's going on with it, so don't ask.
Yep. Nope. I got you. Gotcha. All right. What do you think we ought to maybe start taking some questions from the audience? Well, let me ask you this first before I start looking for some good questions. Is there anything I didn't ask that you definitely want to just say to everybody? Is there something that you really want to get out there that I didn't ask?
Look, I think we're trying to keep the community involved as much as we can. If, we're trying to be as authentic as possible. We're trying to reach out to the community and keep them abreast of what it is we're doing. If I just want everybody to be kind to each other. Right now is a super tough time. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what's going on in your world, in your life. It is tough. And so the key behind this community should be to uplift everyone in the community who only wants to do, and again, I'm not that altruistic. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to do well. But the idea is being negative and being nasty doesn't help anybody. And I think that everybody, should be Ryoshi. Everybody should be and come up with their own ideas. If you want to run them by us, just because you don't know how to build in a metaverse, or you don't, because why would you know, right? It's a new concept. There's 5 companies doing it.
Right.
And by the way, I don't have all the answers either. So by getting feedback from the community, it helps me to also say, oh, that's not going to work because X, Y, and Z. So the more information I can get from the community, the better off we are.
So we've got some questions. I agree 100%, by the way. Can the metaverse itself, Shib the Metaverse, exist without Shibarium?
Yeah.
How much? Okay. It could be a standalone, but there will be some tie-ins, most likely. Gotcha. Sorry. Hello, Marcie. How much Shib do you own? I don't know if you want to.
Would you ask me how much Amazon stock I own? I mean, come on. Right. Like some of these questions, those are ridiculous personal questions.
100% agree.
I have enough.
And this is where, can I just say this real quick? We need to grow up as people in crypto.
Yes.
This is the question that gets asked all the time. And it's just
sometimes I feel like it's 13-year-olds. Like, honestly, I mean, there
are some kids playing in the adult sandbox.
And by the way, that's the only way people will take us. They'll take us seriously,
100%.
Right? When you ask very intelligent questions, people are like, wow, these people are really smart. I want to advertise them to them. I want to be a part of this.
When people in the stock market are asking questions about PE ratio and these sort of things, I mean, it's a little different.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's funny because I watch MSNBC every morning, and not because of anything other than the fact that I want to learn more and grow more, and I never really had the time to focus on stocks and any of this, and it's allowed me to really learn more about everything as it relates to growing my personal wealth. Because that's, at the end of the day, my legacy is not me, it's my children. And so everything that I can do to build legacy for my children, for them to have an easier life, that's the goal.
Yes, 100%. Raul says, will the Shib Metaverse use Shiba Inu in any way? Shiba Inu, the token, in any way?
Goal.
That's a goal. Okay. How soon? You kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but active development in 2023. I think we can all agree that giving hard deadlines sometimes is not the best idea in crypto because things change.
Yeah. Well, and we said this right at the very beginning when I was working in feature films. There was marketing set to a day and date of a film being released. So part of me is like, I think there's some bullshit to that where you don't want to say a date, because when you're making a film, you actually have to do a schedule and you have to book theaters. I believe that you do need a date to back into. So we do have a schedule. We do have a plan. We do have a budget that tracks towards that plan. But we want it to be exciting enough for people that we want to have enough time to market what that plan is. And we are going to start doing a bunch of marketing that will start showing some of the ideas of what's going to happen in the metaverse. And yes, I love the Shib Army. There was a question. Do I love the Shib Army? I absolutely adore the Shib Army.
100%. Likewise. Lee asks, West times metaverse. So we knew this would come up. We talked a little bit off air about this. So the World Economic Forum, I covered that on the channel too a little bit. I think it's a great idea. But go ahead. You're the person to speak on this. What happened here? What's going on with it?
Okay. So here's the backstory. When I was in VR, and I think it was 2016, I was invited to the World Economic Forum for an experience, a VR experience I did with an artist named Lynette Walworth. And the story of this VR piece was she was a Sundance luminary. She is an installation artist. And she created an experience which was the story of the first female shaman in the Amazon rainforest, and how it changed the socio and economic growth, where women were actually, prior to her becoming the shaman of this tribe, were being beaten, they were being held trafficked. I mean, you name it, terrible things were happening. But the minute this woman became the female shaman and started leading this tribe, it changed the entire trajectory of this particular tribe. So that story released. So we had a world premiere at Sundance, and then we all got on a plane and went to World Economic Forum. My dream in my personal life was to walk into the World Economic Forum. Not because I believe any of these politicians or I believe anything that anybody has to say, but the whole reason why I got into VR in the first place is because it's a new technology. And with any new technology, you need to have a seat at the table. And the reason why I believe that is in 2007, when the iPhone came out and the computers came out, I, like a naive person, gave my daughter a computer and I gave her a phone, which gave her more access to things that she should have never been able to see at 12 years old. And so at that very moment, as I was starting that journey with her, I made my pledge to, whenever I can have a seat at the table to change the trajectory of something, I wanted that seat at the table. It doesn't mean I agree with everything they're doing. It doesn't mean it means I want to have a voice. And so it's short-sighted for people to not think that we shouldn't have a voice in everything that we do. Decentralization, centralization, I don't care. So the whole concept was, so Stephanie, who is the head of the metaverse for WEF and that sort of grouping of people, and I knew each other from VR. And so she emailed me and said, hey, you want to talk about Shib going into WEF? And I said, it's going to be a very toxic conversation. I guarantee you.
Right.
And I said, and Shitoshi will probably want to be a part of that conversation. And as we all know, Satoshi always wants to hear from the community and the thoughts on the community. He probably hit that poll button a little too fast. Before I was able to really articulate what the plan would look like. Because it's not just about, hey, should we get involved with WEF?
Right.
There is a process around that. What does that process look like?
And what your goals were.
That's right.
To actually why you wanted to go in there. I think that's an important part of the conversation too.
Right. I want a seat at the table. Why do all these other people get a seat at the table? Why shouldn't we have a seat at the table? Why shouldn't we talk about our community and what we do and what's working and what doesn't work? You always want to have the other side, not just their focus. So you want Facebook to be able to create every regulation inside the metaverse. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and I think, we were talking a little bit off air, like you can go into those conversations and know and see what does work, what doesn't work, what people are trying, what people aren't trying, and maybe obviously glean from what doesn't work more so than what did, I mean, and I think that's with anything.
Aristotle, I am not compromised.
Right.
I am just living in a world where sometimes you have to work in the system. So someone told me something once. You can't break rules until you know what all the rules are. And so once you know all the rules, you can't break them.
Right.
And so if I don't have all the information that I need to be able to go break the rules, how will I be able to break the rule better?
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Every day.
Right.
Every day.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. So let's see. Sifting through some questions. And if you see one you want to answer, jump right in.
Oh, I'm looking at, I love hearing Aristotle's fun. Very sure, it's probably corrupt. Everything is corrupt in our political system right now. So you're just going to sit back and not say anything? That's the whole point. Open your mouth.
Yeah. Well, here's one. I guess we can kind of pull a question out of this. Are you looking in different geographical areas and maybe keying in on something that area would like in the metaverse versus other areas? Like, or are you just kind of letting kind of certain individuals kind of bring ideas? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think
that there's a big SHIB population. And
absolutely. Now think about that. So it's all about diversity, right? What may be working in Venezuela is one way, and what's working in India or isn't working in India is another way.
Yeah.
And we all know how the United States looks right now. So, I think that diversification and having those people at the table and potentially having, those meetings of the minds and having those conversations, I think are important. Because if you really think about it, the only time I became global is when I worked at Technicolor and I was in charge of sales for the entire global Technicolor team. But the way that I market something in the United States is different than someone may market in India. How do I know that idea isn't going to work for me in the United States? So I think that it's really about the SHIB Army and what the SHIB Army and the community wants to do and how they do it. And then, some things may work, some things may not work, but we got to try.
100%. Raul, this is a good question. Thanks for this one. And thank you for everybody out there tuning into this. We've got Marcie for another 15 minutes or so. So keep your questions rolling in. If you haven't hit that like button, definitely do that for us. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And follow Marcie on Twitter at Marcie Jastrow. That would be awesome of y'all as well. So any kind of business, can any kind of business thrive in the metaverse? I would like to build a fresh-made tortilla factory. This is cool. Can I use the metaverse to advertise?
Right? Isn't this fun? So like when you hear people's ideas, it's super exciting because it becomes super engaging. Absolutely. Again, you've got a captive audience of people who want to see you grow because you all are kind of rallying towards the same end goal. So if it were me, like, for example, we have my husband owns a glass company and we have a glass cleaner, right? And our glass cleaner is better than Windex, better than anything. My husband's like, all right, we're going to buy land and we're going to market the shit out of it inside the metaverse. I'm like, let's do it. And then you have a marketing mechanism inside the metaverse. And then you have the real life component where people can buy it in the metaverse. You can get an NFT. Maybe that's your subscription model, right? We were talking about that earlier.
Yep.
And then you're in real life actually being able to use that glass cleaner. So yeah, absolutely. Fresh made tortillas. I will buy that, Raul. Tell me where to buy them. Because I think people want to support the little guy now. You know, these cottage businesses that are not, so that should be the goal of the metaverse, is supporting not the big brands, but the brands like me and Raul who have, you know, maybe it's a mom and pop cottage business that we want to get more eyeballs for.
100%. I agree. Peaceful sleep. So is the metaverse, Shibverse per se, a part of the metaverse, or are y'all building the metaverse for everyone?
Yeah. So Shibaverse is not a sanctified Shib. I don't want to say sanctified because that's not right. Let's call it the official Shiba Inu metaverse.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm not, well, I'm happy to talk to them, but they haven't reached out to me. And they're building what they want to build, but it is not the official Shiba Inu metaverse. Cool. Shib, the metaverse, is the official.
Yep. On Twitter at Shib the MV.
Thank you, Zach.
Let's see for any other good questions here. Let's see. Just a lot of hello, how we doing? Shib Army. Cool. Let's see. I got behind in chat, so let's see. Can you please?
I want to see what Pistol Pete. These markets are creating a lot of depression with it being so many companies trying to create the metaverse. I envision. Yes, true. Everybody's going to eventually make a metaverse, which is, in my opinion, kind of dumb. Because if I'm Coca-Cola, why do I need my own metaverse? Why wouldn't I just do Coca-Cola inside everybody else's metaverse? Because again, it is a 3D interactive way to tap into community. That is what a metaverse is.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think the future of NFTs and the metaverse collide?
I used to be super bullish. I mean, I'm bullish on NFTs because I think that it's a interesting marketing. I don't want to say gimmick, but there is potential behind it. I don't think people have come up with enough utility. It's like what I said about Gary Vee and his is got a great utility. I think you need good utility. What are you going to get if I'm going to buy an NFT? What is that? What is that special thing? So, for example, NFTs for movies are really good because if I buy an NFT of a visual effects shot of, let's say, Top Gun, and I buy that piece of film of that one shot, and I buy that, and let's say I buy that for $5,000. Well, what do I expect for buying that for $5,000? Well, I want a picture with Tom Cruise. I want to go to the red carpet for the movie theater, for the premiere. I want to maybe be a stand-in on the next movie. So the problem is people aren't coming up with cool enough utility for them to have a thriving NFT market.
That makes sense. Yeah, and that's a good idea. I think the digital ownership aspect, I think your reference to Gary Vee providing that that utility of you're in this real life group by holding this digital asset. You have real in life meetups and things like that. Or I think just in general, the big one is deeds, or your car and your house and all these sort of things, having a digital ownership piece.
That's right. So if you buy, I imagine your Shiboshi, if you have a Shiboshi, you're going to hang that Shiboshi in your metaverse home.
For sure.
In the house you're building. One of the things we also talked about, me and, I'm always trying to come up with new ideas. Your digital artwork can now be displayed on your TV. And so if you have a frame, that becomes your digital artwork, right? But your digital artwork only is good if the physical artwork doesn't exist. Because the value of your digital artwork,
right,
you're watering down.
Right.
You see what I mean? It's a very complicated scenario.
Yeah.
There was one up here that I want to answer.
Sure.
Okay, let's talk about scammers.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you all a story. This is an in real life story. You can never control scammers. Scammers are always going to be there. So my husband and I decided we wanted to put blinds up in our house, shutters to be exact. And we contacted some rando who came and gave us a bid. We gave him $5,000 as a deposit for our shutters and blinds. We never saw that guy again. So here's the thing. I can't control the world. I can't control the Shib army. I can't control scammers. I can try to be very careful, but I imagine there will be. It's up to you to do your due diligence on who is real, who is authentic, and who is not.
Yeah.
But I got scammed in real life. So imagine you're going to get scammed in the metaverse at some point because there's just bad people out there who want to be scammers. Look, karma's a great thing. Everybody will get, they'll get theirs.
100%. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, my grandmother recently just got scammed by one of those infamous phone calls, bank account. Luckily it wasn't her larger of the two or whatever. It was a thing. Right. And it's like, it exists. Like,
and you can do your best
there. Yeah.
You can do your best. You can control, but it's so funny. Do your research. Well, I don't do my research. I really don't. I believe that most people are good. And
I do too, but sometimes that's to our demise, right?
Totally. Exactly.
Because we want to see the good in people all the time. And I think most people are like that. And here's the thing. People say, oh, you should have known. You should have done your due diligence. You should have done your research. There are times where there was a lack of research, there was a lack of understanding, and you just kind of did something and without having that. But there's also times where you could do as much as you could do, and it was still going to happen.
Yeah.
It was still going to happen.
The guy was legit. He had a website. He came to my house. He spent 2 hours there measuring. But I guess, you know what he figured for $5,000, it was worth the 2 hours of the measuring. Yeah. Never saw him again.
But I think that's why this space needs to change completely. And I think eventually it will. I think it'll be legitimized through regulation. It's already pushing a lot of the bad people out. You're seeing what's happening with companies that are over leveraged. They're gone. FTX is insolvent. There will be more fallout when this whole thing is settled too.
And that's one of the problems. Like when you look at SBK or SBF and you look at how many people are giving him a platform to talk about, like, why are you're glorifying the fact that he took billions of dollars from people. But he's just another Bernie Madoff. It doesn't matter whether it's crypto or it doesn't matter if it's real cash.
And here's the thing. Think about the super, super smart, business savvy people who just got duped by SBF. It can happen to anybody.
It's going to happen. But by the way, I would have never invested with that guy because he can't even put 3 words together. So I mean, what were these people thinking?
Yeah, it's crazy. From what I heard, it's kind of like a follow the leader approach. When you get into the big money, the hedge funds and things like that, it's like, okay, well, if one hedge fund did it, then it's safe, it's good. And they just don't do their research. Like they just kind of, all right, let's go in there.
Know that if anybody did the research, they would know. Yeah. I don't know that would have been a thing, but I just think that I maybe, again, naive Marcie. I call myself naive Nancy. That's my Discord or my Reddit. The reality of the situation is people are going to scam you. They will. It may not be the way that you think they're going to scam you, but know the people that you're investing in.
100%.
know the community that surrounds it. And if you don't trust something, then don't do it. It's really that simple.
100%.
Okay, wait, we have some questions about avatars.
Yep. And we've also got one on Bark Park.
Yeah. Okay, let me go to Bark Park. When will Bark Park be announced, and do you know what orientation it will have? Not at the moment. I haven't gotten there yet. We're gonna start on this. So we've got 4 or 5 completely imagined right now, and then we're moving on to the concept art after the new year of the rest of them. But the lands. So my hope is, if I can make this happen, I want to be able to open the lands without every hub being open, so that people can start working on their lands, building their structures, taking care of their gardens, walking around, those areas.
Will you be able to walk around if you don't own any land? Will there be a certain part of the metaverse that's kind of just open to the public, if you will? Somebody asked that earlier.
I think we should. I mean, because then it'll encourage more people to buy land,
right?
And to be a part of it. I don't see a reason why. You can probably sign up for it, no problem.
Just have like a central park section where everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's because it's not about the hubs, right? The hubs will be where people come together for events. So let's say we decide we're going to do a concert. And that's the other thing I want to hear. Who do you want for live events? What are the cool things that we as the Metaverse team could start securing for live events? And let's be realistic. Like, don't go for the weekend. Everybody's like, oh, let's get the weekend to do a concert. Who knows? We may be able to do that, but ultimately let's crawl, walk, run. Like, what would be some good events? And the benefits of owning a piece of land is, if you have a product or a service or a business, it's another way for you to get more eyeballs, and also a way for you to sell it in a different way than the way that you're currently selling your product.
Mm-hmm. So we had a question. Let me see. Somebody's asking if there are any big celebs that are being talked to. You've got Snoop Dogg with Gala, and I think Paris Hilton.
I think you're going to see a lot of celebrities walking away from this stuff, only because of what's going on with FTX. But here's the thing: because of Ryoshi's vision, it's against the vision. I can't hire someone to say, hey, promote Shib.
Right.
It would be great if there were, and really, do we need them? Like, sure, Snoop Dogg. I was at an event in Miami, and Snoop Dogg was doing a concert, and of course, Bored Ape was jumping all over the stage. I guarantee you 90% of the people in that audience didn't even know what that Bored Ape was doing or why he was there.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's a very small subset. I think that we need to be our own influencers. We need to be our own advocators. We need to be the ones to talk about the benefits of Shib. 100%. If I get, let's just say, I'm trying to think, let's just say, because the weekend was involved in FTX. I mean, like, so many people were involved in so many of these different scenarios that it's going to be hard, and I would have to pay them money. And can you imagine the Shib army if I would say, okay, I'm going to give like $2 million to blah, blah, and if they're not a fan of them, then the next thing you know, I'm going to get like a shit ton of Twitter telling me, why do you do that? Right. Why, it's like, I don't want to deal with it. So if you give me some good ideas, maybe I'll listen. Can I
email you give your good ideas is email Marcie. Marcie at shib.io, right?
Yep.
Marcie at shib.io. So feel free to hit up Marcie and with your thoughts, ideas. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
I want to know what you're going to do in the metaverse, Zach.
I don't know yet. I got to think about it. Maybe maybe something like this on YouTube. Maybe some kind of
I think you should.
educational content or something like that.
Yeah. And
be
that'll be in Tech Trench. So Tech Trench is really going to be about the education of crypto, the education of metaverse, the education of anything that let's say you were in talks with John Richmond to potentially do a 3D art class and how to design clothing. And that would be super cool. And that's the thing, the benefits of the metaverse and the education component of people who don't have the ability to go learn at a normal university, but potentially in the metaverse university. And now all of a sudden you're getting socialized in ways you weren't being socialized. That's the dream.
Yeah. I'm super fascinated. I want to do this again. For
okay.
Sure. We can definitely set one of these up again on you let me know when you're free and we can set up another
I just want to answer Troy because he did ask about the avatars and then we can go. So Troy, I know you have to get on the road. So Troy, there will be a representation of as many ethnic backgrounds as we possibly can have as an avatar. And in your avatar, you will have a structure builder to build your avatar and then the clothing that you want to have on your avatar. There will be a premium model, think of Fortnite, where if you want to have a special skin or a special outfit, that becomes the premium model where you actually will be able to buy cute clothing, interesting clothing. And then the idea is to tap back into real life. And if you want that same virtual piece of clothing in a physical world, you will be able to buy that. I hope that answered your question, Troy.
Love it. Yep. He's already saying thank you very much. Great show. And we appreciate you, Troy. Everybody out there. Cookie says, I want to sell some special cookies in the metaverse.
Let's do it.
That might be a thing.
I think so. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Zach, thanks for asking me on. I really appreciate it. #Shib Army. Let's do this. Let's show the world that what we really are and how we do support each other. And let's get rid of the people that don't support the movement. Remember, it's not a meme, it's a movement.
I really appreciate you, all the work you and the team are doing. And we'll definitely do this again. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. Hit the like button if you haven't on your way outside the door and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, Zach.